Kevin Martinez stepped off the transport shuttle and took his first real look at Lumina 7 station. The place was massive, bigger than anything he had seen back on Earth. Curved walls stretched in every direction, glowing with soft blue light. Aliens of every shape and size walked through the corridors, speaking in languages that his translator barely kept up with. "This is incredible," Amy Peterson said beside him. She adjusted her backpack and stared at a group of floating creatures that drifted past them like living clouds. "Yeah," Kevin agreed. "I still can't believe we got accepted." The Galactic Medical Academy had opened its doors to humans for the first time this year. Out of thousands of applicants from Earth, only Kevin and Amy had been chosen. They had spent months preparing, studying alien anatomy and learning about different species. But nothing had really prepared them for actually being here. A tall figure approached them. It walked on two legs like a human, but that was where the similarity ended. Its skin was covered in dark green scales, and its eyes were golden with vertical pupils. The creature stood at least 7 feet tall. "You must be the human students," the alien said. Its voice was deep and slightly hissing. "I am Instructor Quaresh. Welcome to Lumina 7. "Thank you, sir," Amy said. Kevin nodded in agreement. "Follow me. I will show you to your quarters and then give you a tour of the medical facilities." As they walked, Quaresh explained the basics of the station. Lumina 7 orbited a peaceful world called Sanctuary. The station housed over 10,000 students from across the galaxy. Most were studying medicine, engineering, or diplomacy. "You will find that our methods are quite different from what you learned on Earth," Quaresh said. "We have reviewed your medical texts. They are quite aggressive." Kevin and Amy exchanged glances. During their application process, they had submitted standard medical textbooks from Earth. The review board had seemed shocked by some of the procedures. "We do what works," Kevin said carefully. "Indeed. But you will learn that what works on your world may not be appropriate here. Our patients require gentler care." They reached a large circular room filled with tables and strange equipment. Several students were already there, looking up with curiosity as the humans entered. "This is your class," Quaresh announced. "You will be studying emergency medicine together for the next 6 months." A crystalline being approached first. It looked like a person-shaped diamond, with light glowing from somewhere inside its transparent body. "I am Velk," it said, its voice chiming like glass. "I have never met a human before. Is it true your world has predators that hunt your kind?" "Used to," Amy said. "Not so much anymore. But yeah, Earth has some dangerous animals." Velk's internal light flickered. "Fascinating and frightening." Next came an insect-like creature with 6 limbs and enormous compound eyes. "I am Prin," it clicked. "I have heard humans come from a high-gravity world. Is this true?" "Earth has pretty strong gravity, yeah," Kevin confirmed. "About 1 standard G, I think they told us." Prin's antennae drooped. "That is considered extreme. Most civilized worlds have 0.6 to 0.8 G. How do you even move?" Kevin shrugged. "We're used to it." The third student was harder to look at. It appeared to be a floating ball of colored gas, shifting between purple and green. "I am Zix," it said, though the voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Your species intrigues me. You should not be able to survive your own world." "Thanks, I guess," Amy said. Quaresh called for attention. "Students, take your seats. We will begin with basic principles." The class settled around the tables. The furniture was odd. Instead of chairs, there were cushioned platforms that seemed to adjust to whoever sat on them. Kevin and Amy found spots near the back. "Emergency medicine is about preserving life," Quaresh began, "but it is also about causing no harm. The first rule of treatment is gentleness. A patient in distress is fragile. Rough handling can cause more damage than the original injury." The instructor brought up a holographic display showing various alien species. Each species has different tolerances. Most can withstand very little pressure or force. Even a firm grip can cause bruising. A sudden movement can induce shock. Kevin raised his hand. What about species that are more durable? There are few such species, Quaresh replied. Most intelligent life evolved on peaceful worlds. Hostile environments rarely produce sentient beings. Your species is an anomaly. Amy leaned over to Kevin and whispered, I think we're the tough ones here. The lesson continued. Quaresh demonstrated proper patient handling using a training dummy. The movements were slow and careful. The instructor used both hands to support the dummy's head while barely touching it. Every action was deliberate and gentle. Notice the minimal contact, Quaresh said. We use suspension fields when possible to avoid any pressure on the patient. Physical touch is a last resort. Velk asked, What about broken bones? Excellent question. For most species, bone fractures are extremely dangerous. The bones are quite fragile. We immobilize the area using a zero-pressure field and wait for the bone to naturally heal. Moving a fractured limb can cause death from shock. Kevin frowned. On Earth, they splinted broken bones and sometimes even reset them immediately. Waiting seemed wrong, but he kept quiet. The class moved to practical exercises. Each student practiced on training dummies designed to simulate different species. The dummies were incredibly delicate. When Prin applied what seemed like gentle pressure, the dummy's sensors flashed red, indicating injury. Lighter, Quaresh instructed. Barely touch the surface. Amy tried next. She placed her hands on the dummy as carefully as she could. The sensors still flickered orange. Too much force, Quaresh said. Remember, human grip strength is approximately 10 times that of most species here. You must be extraordinarily careful. Kevin's turn went no better. Even trying to be gentle, he triggered the injury sensors. Quaresh sighed. This will require practice. Humans are simply not built for delicate work. During the break, the students gathered in small groups. Velk approached Kevin and Amy with curiosity. Tell me about Earth medicine, Velk said. How do you treat injuries on your world? Kevin thought about how to explain. Well, if someone breaks a bone, we set it. We push it back into place and hold it there with a cast. Velk's glow dimmed. You push broken bones? While the patient is conscious? Sometimes. If it's really bad, we put them to sleep first. That sounds like torture, Prin said, joining the conversation. It's necessary, Amy explained. Bones need to be aligned properly to heal right. If you just leave them, they might heal crooked. Zix shifted to a dark blue color. On my world, such a thing would kill the patient instantly. The pain alone would stop their hearts. Hearts? Kevin asked. Plural? I have 3 cardiac organs, Zix said. Most species have at least 2. Do humans have only 1? Yeah, just 1. The aliens fell silent. Finally, Prin spoke. How does your species survive with only 1 heart? If it fails, you die immediately. That's true, Amy admitted. But human hearts are pretty tough. They can take a lot of damage and keep working. Velk's light pulsed thoughtfully. Your world has shaped you into something quite remarkable and quite frightening. The rest of the first week followed the same pattern. Kevin and Amy struggled with the gentle techniques, while the alien students took careful notes. Everything in galactic medicine seemed designed for species that could barely survive a strong breeze. On the 5th day, Quaresh announced they would be touring the medical facility's emergency room. You will observe real cases, the instructor said. But do not touch anything. These are real patients, not training dummies. The emergency room was quiet and calm. Patients rested in suspension fields that kept them floating and weightless. Medical staff moved slowly and spoke in whispers. Everything was designed to avoid any stress or discomfort. "This is so different from hospitals back home," Amy whispered to Kevin. He nodded. Earth hospitals were busy, loud places where doctors and nurses moved quickly. Here, everything felt like a library. But Kevin couldn't shake a feeling of unease. This gentle approach might work for aliens, but what happened when something really dangerous occurred? What if someone needed immediate aggressive treatment to survive? He would find out sooner than he thought. The accident happened during their third week at the academy. The class was working in the advanced laboratory, a large room filled with medical equipment and monitoring stations. Quaresh had set up a training scenario involving multiple casualties. The students were supposed to practice triage and resource allocation. Kevin and Amy were working together at one station, trying to adapt to the gentle methods they had been taught. Velk was at the station next to theirs, his crystalline body glowing softly as he studied a holographic patient chart. Prin and Zix were on the other side of the room, practicing communication protocols. The equipment storage area ran along the upper level of the laboratory. It was designed to hold heavy machinery and supplies safely above the work floor. Everything was secured with magnetic locks and support fields. At least everything was supposed to be secured. The warning alarm was brief. A single tone that made everyone look up. Then the sound of metal grinding against metal filled the room. One of the storage platforms had failed. Kevin saw it happen in slow motion. A heavy metal beam, easily 12 feet long and weighing several hundred pounds, broke free from its mountings. It tilted, slid, and fell. Velk was directly underneath. "Look out!" Amy screamed. Velk turned, his internal light flashing in alarm. He tried to move, but his species was not built for speed. The beam fell too fast. The impact was terrible. The metal crashed down across Velk's torso with a sound like breaking glass. The crystalline student's body cracked, fracture lines spreading across his transparent form like a spider web. He collapsed under the weight, pinned to the floor. For a moment, nobody moved. The other students stood frozen, their minds unable to process what had just happened. Quaresh was across the room, too far away to help immediately. Then the screaming started. Prin's antennae stood straight up, and it made a high-pitched clicking sound of distress. Zix shifted rapidly between colors, unable to settle on one. Several other students backed away from the scene. "Nobody touch him!" Quaresh shouted, moving toward the emergency call system. "I am summoning the trauma team. Everyone stay back. Do not attempt to move the equipment." Kevin's body moved before his mind fully registered what was happening. Years of emergency response training kicked in. He ran toward Velk, Amy right beside him. "Stop," Quaresh commanded. "You will cause more damage. The equipment is too heavy. We must wait for proper lifting gear." Kevin ignored the instructor. He reached the fallen beam and assessed the situation in seconds. Velk was conscious, but fading. His internal glow flickered weakly. The cracks in his crystalline body were spreading, branching out from the impact site. Kevin knew enough about Velk's species to understand what that meant. If the cracks reached his core matrix, he would die. Amy dropped to her knees beside Velk's head. "Hey, stay with us," she said firmly. "We're going to help you." Velk's voice was weak, chiming like distant bells. "Cannot breathe properly. The pressure." "I know. We're going to fix that." Amy looked at Kevin. "On 3?" He nodded and got a good grip on the beam. It was heavy, probably close to 300 pounds. Back on Earth, Kevin could deadlift nearly 400 pounds. In the station's lower gravity, it would be easier. But it was still a significant weight and awkwardly balanced. "Wait!" Quaresh reached them, his scales paling with stress. "You cannot lift that. It is impossible. You will hurt yourselves and drop it on him." "We can do it," Kevin said. His hands were already in position. "The trauma team will arrive in 8 minutes," Quaresh insisted. They have proper equipment. You must wait. Amy checked Velk's cracks again. They were spreading faster. He doesn't have 8 minutes. Kevin locked eyes with Amy. 1, 2, 3. They lifted together. Kevin took most of the weight, his muscles straining. Amy helped guide and balance the beam. The metal came up off Velk's body smoothly. For a moment, they held it suspended, then carefully moved it to the side and set it down. The entire lift took less than 4 seconds. The room was absolutely silent. Every alien in the laboratory stared at the two humans. Even Quaresh seemed unable to speak. Kevin had just lifted more than his own body weight like it was nothing. Amy had helped control a piece of equipment that should have required a team and machinery. But there was no time to explain. Kevin and Amy immediately turned their attention to Velk. "Get me our medical kit," Amy said, already examining the injured student. "And I need something to stabilize his core." Kevin ran to their locker and grabbed the emergency kit they had brought from Earth. The Academy allowed students to keep personal medical supplies, though the alien staff had found the human equipment barbaric. Amy's hands moved quickly over Velk's body. She identified the worst cracks and assessed which ones were spreading toward vital areas. Core matrix is compromised but intact. Major structural damage to the torso region. He's losing energy fast. Velk's glow was dimming steadily. His voice was barely audible. "Cold. Feel cold." "That's shock," Amy said. "Kevin, I need the pressure wraps and the rigid splints." Kevin handed her the equipment. The other students gasped as Amy pulled out the supplies. The pressure wraps were designed for human use. They were tight, restrictive bandages that applied significant force to injured areas. The rigid splints were made of hard plastic, meant to completely immobilize broken bones. "You cannot use those on him," Prin said, clicking nervously. "The pressure will shatter him." "The pressure will keep him together," Amy corrected. She placed both hands on Velk's largest crack and pressed down firmly. Velk made a sound of pain, a high chiming note. Every alien in the room flinched. Quaresh moved forward. "Stop. You are hurting him." "I'm saving him," Amy said without looking up. "The cracks are spreading because there's nothing holding them closed. Pressure will stop the spread." She kept her hands in place, applying steady force. After a few seconds, the cracks stopped expanding. Velk's glow stabilized, no longer dimming. "It's working," Kevin observed, watching the crystalline structure. "Of course it's working," Amy said. She reached for the pressure wrap with one hand while keeping the other on Velk. "Help me get this around him." Together they wrapped the bandage around Velk's torso. Amy pulled it tight, much tighter than any alien would have dared. The fabric compressed Velk's cracked body, holding the pieces together. Once it was secure, she grabbed the rigid splints. "These go on his sides," she instructed Kevin. "We need to immobilize the whole torso so the cracks don't expand when he moves." The splints were designed for human arms and legs, but they worked well enough. Amy positioned them along Velk's flanks and used medical tape to hold them in place. The result looked crude compared to the sleek alien medical technology, but it was effective. Velk's glow strengthened. His voice was clearer. "The pain is less. I can process thoughts again." Amy checked his core matrix through his transparent body. "The cracks have stopped spreading. You're stable." Quaresh stared at the humans in disbelief. "How did you know to do that?" "Basic first aid," Kevin said. "Apply pressure to stop spreading damage. Immobilize the injury. Keep the patient calm." "But the force you used," Quaresh said. "That should have killed him." "He's not as fragile as you think," Amy replied. She was checking Velk's vital signs now, using a handheld scanner from the human medical kit. "His species is crystalline. Crystal is actually pretty strong under compression. It's tension that causes problems. The wrap compresses the cracks closed. The splints prevent tension from movement." Prin approached cautiously. "On my world, such treatment would be considered assault." "On my world, it's standard emergency care," Amy said. The trauma team arrived moments later, 6 medical professionals with floating equipment platforms. They stopped at the doorway, confused by what they saw. The emergency was over. The patient was stable and conscious. The team leader, another Saurian named Kresh, approached slowly. What happened here? Quaresh explained the situation, his voice still uncertain. Kresh examined Velk carefully, studying the human bandages and splints with fascination. "This is remarkable," Kresh said. "The patient should be in critical condition. Instead, he is stable and responsive. These techniques are unknown to me." "They're human techniques," Amy explained. "We use them on Earth all the time." Kresh looked at the humans with new respect. "Would you be willing to demonstrate your methods? For educational purposes?" Amy and Kevin exchanged glances. "Sure," Kevin said. As the trauma team carefully transported Velk to the medical wing, keeping the human stabilization in place, the other students gathered around Kevin and Amy. Questions came from all directions. "How did you lift that beam?" Zix asked. "How did you know what to do?" Prin wanted to know. "Why didn't the pressure kill him?" another student questioned. Kevin tried to answer. "We train for emergencies on Earth. When someone is hurt, you can't always wait for the perfect equipment or the ideal conditions. You work with what you have, and you work fast." "But you are not trained medical professionals yet," Quaresh said. "You are students, like the others. How do you know these techniques?" "Everyone on Earth learns basic first aid," Amy said. "It's part of standard education. By the time we're adults, most humans know how to handle broken bones, bleeding, choking, cardiac arrest." The aliens looked at each other, their expressions ranging from shock to horror. The idea that children were taught such aggressive medical procedures was almost incomprehensible to them. The medical wing observation room was packed. Word had spread quickly through the station about what happened in the laboratory. Students and staff from every department wanted to see the human medical techniques that had saved Velk's life. Kevin and Amy stood at the front of the room beside Instructor Quaresh. On the exam table between them lay a training dummy designed to simulate a generic humanoid species. The dummy had sensors throughout its body that would flash different colors based on the force applied to it. Red meant dangerous pressure. Orange meant excessive force. Yellow meant moderate force. Green meant appropriate handling. "Before we begin," Quaresh announced to the crowd, "I must emphasize that these techniques are experimental. They have not been approved by the Galactic Medical Council. We are observing them purely for educational purposes." Amy stepped forward. "What we're going to show you is standard emergency first aid from Earth. These methods are used by ordinary people, not just medical professionals. They're designed to keep someone alive until advanced care is available." She looked at the audience. Dozens of different species stared back at her. Some were taking notes, others looked nervous. A few seemed openly skeptical. "First, we'll demonstrate CPR," Kevin said. "That stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. It's used when someone's heart stops beating." A gasp went through the crowd. Prin's antennae drooped. "Their heart stops? Then they are dead." "Not necessarily," Amy said. "On Earth, we can sometimes restart a heart, but you have to act fast. Brain damage starts after about 4 minutes without oxygen." She positioned her hands on the dummy's chest. "You place your hands here, over the heart. Then you push down hard and fast." Amy began compressions. She pushed the dummy's chest down about 2 inches with each compression, moving at a steady rhythm of around 100 compressions per minute. The dummy's sensors immediately flashed bright red. The audience reacted with shock. Several students made sounds of distress. One fainted and had to be carried out. "You are breaking its ribs!" someone shouted from the crowd. "Probably," Amy admitted, not stopping the compressions. "Broken ribs are common with proper CPR, but broken ribs can heal." A stopped heart kills you. Quaresh looked at the sensor readings on a nearby monitor. The force being applied would cause catastrophic damage to 90% of known species. The pressure is equivalent to being struck by a moving vehicle. It has to be that hard, Kevin explained. The compressions squeeze the heart to pump blood. Gentle pressure doesn't work. You need force to move blood through the body. Amy continued for 30 compressions, then stopped. After 30 compressions, you give 2 rescue breaths. You tilt the head back, pinch the nose closed, and breathe into the person's mouth. She demonstrated on the dummy. More gasps from the audience. You breathe your own air into them? Zix asked, shifting to a confused gray color. Your air has been through your lungs already. It has less oxygen. It still has enough to help, Amy said. If they're not breathing on their own, any oxygen is better than none. Kevin took over. You keep doing this. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. You don't stop until their heart starts again or until professional help arrives. Sometimes this takes minutes, sometimes longer. How long can this continue? Kresh, the trauma team leader, asked from his seat. As long as necessary, Kevin said. I've heard of people doing CPR for over an hour. The audience fell silent. The idea of applying crushing force to someone's chest for an entire hour was beyond their comprehension. Next is the Heimlich maneuver, Amy said. This is for when someone is choking on food or an object. She positioned herself behind the dummy. You make a fist and place it above their belly button. Then you grab your fist with your other hand and pull in and up, hard and fast, she demonstrated. The motion was sudden and violent. The dummy's sensors flashed red across the entire abdominal area. That could rupture internal organs, Prin protested. It could, Amy agreed. But if someone is choking, they'll die in minutes. A ruptured organ can be repaired. Death can't. What about gently removing the blockage? Quaresh asked. There's no time for gentle, Kevin said. When someone can't breathe, every second counts. The Heimlich maneuver uses pressure to force air up from the lungs. That air pushes the blockage out. Amy stepped back and gestured to Kevin. Your turn. Show them the tourniquet. Kevin picked up a long strip of cloth from the medical kit. This is for severe bleeding. When an artery is cut, a person can bleed to death in minutes. A tourniquet stops the bleeding by cutting off blood flow to the limb. He wrapped the cloth around the dummy's upper arm and tied it tight. Then he took a short rod and twisted it, turning the cloth tighter and tighter. The dummy's arm sensors went completely red. You are cutting off all circulation, Kresh observed. The limb will die. Maybe, Kevin said. If the tourniquet is on too long, yes. But it's better to lose an arm than to bleed to death. Once the person gets to a hospital, surgeons can repair the artery and remove the tourniquet. How long is too long? Someone asked. An hour or 2 is usually safe. After that, damage becomes more likely. But people have survived tourniquets for several hours. Amy picked up a rigid splint from the kit. Now let's talk about broken bones. On Earth, we immobilize the break, and sometimes we have to set the bone first. She positioned the splint along the dummy's arm. Setting a bone means pushing it back into the correct position. Sometimes the bone ends are displaced or overlapping. You have to pull or push them back into alignment. Quaresh's scales paled. While the patient is conscious? If necessary. Obviously, we use pain medication when available, but if you're in the field without drugs, you do what you have to do. Kevin added, broken bones need to be aligned properly. If they heal in the wrong position, the limb won't work right. It's better to endure a minute of pain than to have a permanent disability. On my world, such a thing is unthinkable, Velk's voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned to look. The crystalline student was floating on a medical transport pad, still wrapped in the human pressure bandages. His glow was strong and steady. You should be resting, Kresh said with concern. I wanted to see this, Velk said. These humans saved my life with their brutal methods. I want to understand how it works. Amy smiled at him. How are you feeling? Much better. The medical staff examined me. They say your wrapping technique prevented my core matrix from fracturing. Without your intervention, I would have died before the trauma team arrived. Velk floated closer to the demonstration table. I felt the pressure you applied. It was painful. But it worked. You understood something about my physiology that even my own people did not know. We can withstand compression much better than we thought. Quaresh looked thoughtful. This raises an important question. How did you know that crystalline physiology would respond well to compression? Amy shrugged. I didn't, not for sure. But crystal is strong under compression. That's basic materials science. I figured if we could hold the cracks closed, they would stop spreading. It was logical. Logical, Quaresh repeated, but risky. You applied a technique designed for your own species to an alien physiology. There wasn't time to research and plan, Kevin said. In an emergency, you work with the information you have. You make the best choice you can and act quickly. The instructor nodded slowly. This is a fundamental difference between human medicine and galactic medicine. We prioritize safety and protocols. You prioritize speed and results. Both approaches have value, Kresh said, standing up. But I must admit, in this case, the human approach was superior. By the time we arrived with our equipment, the patient was already stabilized. Our gentle methods would have been too slow. A debate broke out in the audience. Some aliens argued that human methods were too dangerous. Others pointed out that Velk was alive because of those methods. The discussion grew heated. Quaresh called for silence. This is clearly a topic that requires further study. I propose that we establish a research program to evaluate human emergency techniques and determine which ones might be adapted for use in galactic medicine. Kevin raised his hand. Can I add something? Please. All these techniques look brutal because humans are durable. Earth is a high-gravity world with dangerous weather and predators. We evolved to survive impacts, falls, and injuries that would kill most species here. Our medicine reflects that durability, he gestured to Amy. When she does chest compressions hard enough to break ribs, that's normal for us. Human ribs are designed to flex and absorb impacts. Breaking a few during CPR isn't ideal, but it's acceptable because we heal well. Amy continued his thought. Every species has different tolerances. What works for humans might not work for everyone, but the principles can be adapted. Fast action, direct intervention, accepting small risks to prevent big ones. Zix shifted to a bright yellow, indicating understanding. So you are not suggesting we use your exact methods on all species. You are suggesting we adopt your philosophy of aggressive intervention when necessary. Exactly, Kevin said. Prin's antennae waved with interest. This could change how we handle emergencies. Currently, we wait for ideal conditions. But what if waiting is the wrong choice? Sometimes it is, Amy said. Velk didn't have time for us to wait. He needed help immediately. The right tools weren't available, so we used what we had. Quaresh looked at his students. You have all been taught to follow protocols exactly, to never deviate from approved methods. But today, you saw something different. You saw improvisation and rapid decision-making save a life. The instructor's golden eyes focused on Kevin and Amy. I believe there is much we can learn from Deathworlder medicine. These humans have shown us that sometimes the safest choice is to take a risk. Velk chimed in agreement. I am alive because they took that risk. I am grateful. As am I, Quaresh said. This incident will be documented and presented to the Medical Council. I expect there will be significant interest in further demonstrations. Over the next few days, Kevin and Amy became minor celebrities on the station. Students from other programs came to meet them. Staff members asked questions about Earth and human physiology. The story of how two human students lifted a 300-pound beam and saved a classmate spread throughout Lumina 7. But the most significant change was in their own class. The other students looked at Kevin and Amy differently now. There was still some fear, but also respect and curiosity. During training sessions, aliens asked the humans to explain the reasoning behind various Earth medical techniques. Prin wanted to know how humans dealt with broken bones. Zix asked about immune system responses. Even Quaresh started incorporating some human concepts into the lessons, talking about rapid assessment and improvised solutions. One evening, Kevin and Amy sat in the station's observation lounge, looking out at the stars. Velk floated nearby, his crystalline body catching and reflecting the starlight. "I have been thinking," Velk said. "My people avoid physical contact because we fear breaking. We have built our entire medical system around that fear, but you showed me that pressure can also heal. It is a strange concept." "Not strange," Amy said. "Just different. Every species develops medicine based on their own needs and experiences." "Yes, but we never questioned our assumptions. We believed our way was the only way. You proved that wrong in minutes." Kevin smiled. "That's the thing about meeting other species. You learn that your way isn't the only way. Sometimes other perspectives make you see things you missed." "Indeed," Velk agreed. His glow pulsed thoughtfully. "I think the galaxy needs more of this. More exchange of ideas. More willingness to try new approaches." Amy nodded. "That's why we're here, to learn from you and share what we know." Velk drifted closer. "Then I hope you will teach us more. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. If human methods can help save lives, then we should learn them." "We'd be happy to teach you," Kevin said. "Though you might want to start with the gentler stuff and work your way up to the bone setting." Velk's internal light flickered with what might have been laughter. "Agreed. I think I have experienced enough human medicine for now." The Galactic Medical Council arrived 2 weeks after the incident. 3 distinguished physicians traveled from the Central Worlds to observe the human students and evaluate their techniques. The council members were taking the matter seriously. If human methods had genuine value, it could change emergency medicine throughout known space. Counselor Thex was an elderly saurian with silver scales and calculating eyes. Counselor Miriam belonged to a species of floating jellyfish-like beings, her translucent body shimmering with bioluminescence. The third counselor, Pak, was a 4-armed being covered in fine fur, representing one of the more physically robust species in the galaxy. They gathered in the Academy's main auditorium, along with dozens of medical professionals, instructors, and students. Kevin and Amy stood on the central platform, feeling the weight of all those eyes upon them. "Let us begin with questions," Counselor Thex said, his voice amplified through the hall. "We have reviewed the incident reports and the demonstration footage, but we wish to understand the foundation of your medical knowledge. Tell us about medical training on Earth." Kevin cleared his throat. "Basic first aid is taught to everyone starting around age 10. By the time humans reach adulthood, most of us know how to treat common injuries, perform CPR, stop bleeding, and handle emergencies." "Everyone?" Miran's voice resonated like soft chimes. "Not just medical professionals?" "Everyone," Amy confirmed. "Parents, teachers, factory workers, office employees. It's considered essential knowledge. Earth is dangerous enough that anyone might need to save someone's life at any moment." Counselor Pak leaned forward with interest. "Describe these dangers. We know Earth is classified as a high-gravity death world, but specifics would be valuable." Kevin thought about how to explain Earth to beings who came from safe, peaceful worlds. "Our gravity is 1 standard G, which you already know. But we also have extreme weather, storms that can destroy buildings. Temperature ranges from far below freezing to hot enough to kill. Earthquakes that shake the ground. Floods, fires, avalanches." "And the wildlife," Amy added. "We have predators that hunt in packs, venomous creatures, animals large enough to kill a human easily. Even our plants can be dangerous. Some are poisonous, some have thorns that cause infections. The audience listened with a mixture of horror and fascination. To species from gentle worlds, Earth sounded like a nightmare. In such an environment, Thek said slowly, I suppose aggressive medicine becomes necessary. But surely now that humans have advanced technology, you could move to safer protocols. We could, Kevin agreed, but we don't, because the old methods work. They're proven over thousands of years of human history. When someone is dying, you don't want to try something new and gentle. You want something that works fast and reliably. Mirren glowed brighter. This philosophy troubles me. You prioritize effectiveness over safety. We prioritize saving lives, Amy corrected gently. Safety matters, but not if the patient dies while you're being careful. Quaresh stood up from the audience. With permission, I would like to share my observations. I have worked with these students for weeks now. Initially, I believed their methods were barbaric. I tried to teach them our gentle protocols. The instructor paused. But after seeing them save Velk, I realized something. They were not being barbaric. They were being practical. They assessed the situation, determined what needed to be done, and did it without hesitation. That decisiveness saved a life. Velk rose from his seat as well, his crystalline body gleaming under the lights. I would also like to speak. These humans treated me with methods that, by our standards, should have killed me. The pressure they applied would have shattered most species. But my physiology is different from most. The humans recognized this and adapted. He floated toward the platform. They did something we have never done. They questioned the assumption that all patients require gentle care. They understood that different species have different needs. This insight could revolutionize how we approach emergency medicine. Counselor Pak nodded thoughtfully. An interesting point. Perhaps we have been too rigid in our protocols, too focused on the majority of delicate species and not enough on exceptions. Exactly, Kresh said, standing up as well. I lead the station's trauma team. We are trained to be cautious, to avoid risks. But caution has a cost. In the time it takes us to set up proper equipment and verify every protocol, a patient might die. The humans showed us that sometimes speed matters more than perfection. Thex looked unconvinced. But the risks remain. Using human methods on inappropriate species could cause catastrophic harm. How do we prevent misuse? Amy had been thinking about this question since the council announced their visit. You teach people to think, not just follow steps. Human first aid isn't about memorizing exact procedures. It's about understanding principles and applying them to each situation. She walked to the front of the platform. When I treated Velk, I didn't just automatically use human methods. I looked at his injuries, thought about his physiology, and made a decision. The compression worked because his crystalline structure could handle it. I wouldn't use the same technique on Prin or Zix. Their bodies are completely different. So you are suggesting we teach judgment and adaptation rather than fixed protocols, Miran said. Yes, Kevin confirmed. Protocols are useful as guidelines, but in a real emergency, you need to be able to think and adjust. Every situation is unique. The council members looked at each other, communicating silently. Finally, Thex spoke again. We would like to see more demonstrations. Specifically, we want you to show how human techniques could be adapted for different species. Can you do this? We can try, Amy said. Over the next several hours, Kevin and Amy worked with volunteers from different species. They showed how to assess each being's unique physiology and determine appropriate treatment levels. For delicate species like the jellyfish beings, they demonstrated gentler versions of human techniques. For more robust species like Pax people, they showed more aggressive interventions. The key message was always the same. Understand the patient, make quick decisions, act with confidence. They brought out training dummies representing various species and walked through scenarios. A Krell worker trapped under debris, a Saurian with a severed limb, an Aurelian whose containment field had failed. For each case, they explained the decision-making process. What is the immediate danger? How much time do we have? What resources are available? What is the patient's tolerance? These are the questions you ask, Kevin explained. Amy demonstrated on a dummy representing a more durable species. This being has a robust skeletal structure and strong cardiovascular system. They can handle more aggressive treatment, so if their heart stops, I can do full-force compressions. If they have a broken bone, I can set it immediately. She moved to a more delicate dummy. This being is fragile. Strong compressions would kill them. So I adjust, gentler pressure but faster rhythm. The principle is the same, moving blood through the body, but the application is different. Counselor Pack asked, "How do you know the limits for each species? Surely you cannot memorize every alien physiology." "You learn the basics and look for clues," Kevin said. "Bone density, muscle mass, skin thickness. These tell you a lot. If someone feels solid and heavy, they can probably handle more force. If they feel light and delicate, you adjust." "It requires practice," Amy added, "and it requires being willing to make mistakes and learn from them. Human medicine has been refined over centuries of trial and error." Prin raised a limb. "But errors in medicine mean deaths. How many patients died while humans were learning these techniques?" Kevin nodded seriously. "Many. Medical history is full of failed experiments and wrong theories. People died because we didn't know better. But each generation learned from the previous one. We kept what worked and discarded what didn't. That's how we got to where we are now." "And you continue to improve," Miran observed. "Your medicine is not static." "Nothing is static," Amy said. "We learn new things all the time. Meeting alien species teaches us new possibilities. Maybe some of your gentle techniques could work on humans in certain situations. Maybe we can combine approaches." Thex stood up. "I have seen enough. The Council will deliberate and provide our recommendations to the Medical Academy. Thank you for your demonstrations." The three counselors left the auditorium. The audience began to disperse. But many students and staff remained to talk with Kevin and Amy. The questions continued for another hour. Finally, Quaresh approached them. "You did well. The Council was impressed, I could tell. Do you think they'll approve incorporating human techniques?" Amy asked. "I believe they will approve some form of integration, but it will be gradual. The Galactic Medical Council does not make quick decisions." Velk joined them. "Regardless of what the Council decides, you have changed things here. Our class will never forget what we learned from you. I certainly will not." "You would have done the same for us," Kevin said. "Perhaps," Velk said, "but I doubt I would have thought of it. My people are not trained to act boldly. We consider, we deliberate, we plan. You simply act." Amy smiled. "Sometimes thinking too much gets people killed. When someone needs help, you help them. You figure out the details later." 3 days later, Quaresh called Kevin and Amy to his office. His expression was serious, but his eyes held a hint of excitement. "The Council has made their decision," he said. "They are establishing a new program here at the Academy. It will be called Adaptive Emergency Medicine. The curriculum will teach students to assess patient durability and adjust treatment accordingly. Human techniques will be included as options for appropriate species." "That's great," Amy said. "Furthermore," Quaresh continued, "they are requesting that you two serve as instructors for the program, after you complete your own studies, of course." Kevin and Amy looked at each other in surprise. "They want us to teach?" Kevin asked. "Your practical experience and ability to explain complex concepts simply makes you ideal. You will work alongside experienced faculty naturally, but your perspective is valuable." Amy felt a surge of pride. "We accept." "Excellent. I should warn you this will not be easy. Many physicians are set in their ways. Changing minds will take time and patience. We understand, Kevin said, but it's worth doing. If we can save even a few more lives, it's worth it. 6 months passed quickly. Kevin and Amy completed their coursework with top marks, though they still occasionally triggered injury sensors during delicate procedure training. Their classmates had grown comfortable with the humans and no longer flinched when they moved quickly or lifted heavy equipment. The Adaptive Emergency Medicine program officially launched with 20 students from various species. Kevin and Amy co-taught the introductory course alongside instructor Quaresh. The curriculum combined traditional galactic protocols with human rapid response techniques. Velk had fully recovered and was now one of their most enthusiastic students. He had become an advocate for rethinking medical assumptions, often sharing his own experience to help others understand the value of adaptive thinking. "I was dying," he told each new class. "The standard protocol said to wait for proper equipment. If these humans had followed that protocol, I would be dead. Instead, they broke the rules and saved my life. Sometimes breaking rules is the right choice." The program attracted attention from across the galaxy. Medical facilities on dozens of worlds requested information about the new techniques. Some were skeptical, but many saw the potential value. A few stations even requested human medical advisors. One evening, as Kevin and Amy were reviewing lesson plans for the next day, Quaresh entered their office with a datapad. "I have an interesting opportunity for you," the instructor said. "The Galactic Emergency Response Service is forming a new rapid response team. They want specialists who can handle extreme situations on various types of worlds. They specifically requested human members." Amy looked up with interest. "What kind of situations?" "Natural disasters, industrial accidents, colony emergencies. Anywhere that conventional response teams might be too slow or too cautious. The service believes humans would excel in these high-pressure scenarios." Kevin read through the information on the datapad. "It says here the team would operate from a dedicated ship. We would travel wherever we're needed across this sector of space." "The ship is called the Frontier Hope," Quaresh said. "It would have a mixed crew. Humans for rapid response and physical interventions. Other species for specialized care and diverse perspectives. The team would combine the best of all approaches." "Who else would be on the team?" Amy asked. "They are still recruiting, but I know that Velk has applied, Prin as well, and Zix expressed interest. Your classmates want to continue working with you." Kevin felt a warmth in his chest. Months ago, these aliens had been terrified of human medical techniques. Now they wanted to learn more and work alongside humans in the field. "What do you think?" Amy asked Kevin. "I think it sounds perfect," he said. "We came here to learn and to share knowledge. This would let us do both on a much larger scale." Amy nodded. "I agree. When do they need an answer?" "The team launches in 2 months. If you accept, you would spend that time training together with the other recruits, learning each other's capabilities and building coordination." "We accept," Kevin and Amy said together. Quaresh's scales brightened, a sign of pleasure in his species. "I hoped you would say that. I have already submitted my recommendation on your behalf. The formal invitation should arrive tomorrow." The next 2 months were intense. Kevin and Amy joined 8 other beings on the Frontier Hope. The crew included Velk, Daprin, and Zix from their original class. There was also a Saurian named Kayla with expertise in toxicology, a pair of bonded beings called the Dren, who specialized in radiation treatment, and a massive, slow-moving creature named Groth, whose species had remarkable regenerative abilities. The captain was the experienced spacer named Ven, a 3-eyed being with blue skin and a calm demeanor. She had served in emergency response for 40 years and understood the value of diverse teams. "Each of you brings something unique," Ven told them during their first meeting. "Humans bring speed and strength. Velk brings crystalline physics knowledge. Prin brings precision with multiple limbs. Zix can fit into spaces others cannot reach. The Dren can work in radioactive environments. Groth can donate regenerative tissue. Kayla knows every poison in known space. She looked at each crew member. Separately, you are good at your specialties. Together, you can handle situations that would defeat conventional teams. That is why this program exists. Training focused on coordination. Kevin and Amy learned to communicate quickly with species who thought differently than humans. Prin learned to anticipate when humans were about to move fast, so he would not be startled. Velk practiced rapid assessment techniques. Zix worked on maintaining form stability under stress. They ran countless simulations, building collapses, chemical spills, wilderness accidents, ship failures. Each scenario required different combinations of skills. The team learned to trust each other and to combine their abilities effectively. Groth became an unexpected friend to Kevin. The massive being moved slowly but thought deeply. During breaks, they often talked about medicine and philosophy. "Your species fascinates me," Groth rumbled one day. "You are so quick, so aggressive, yet you use that aggression to heal. It is a beautiful contradiction." "I never thought of it that way," Kevin admitted. "For us, it's just normal. That is what makes it beautiful. You do not see your own remarkableness. You simply act according to your nature, and your nature is to survive and to help others survive." Amy joined the conversation. "What's your species like? You never talk about your homeworld." "We are very different from humans. My people live for thousands of years. We move slowly, think slowly, change slowly. But we endure. We can regrow lost limbs, survive environments that would kill most beings. In that way, we are similar to humans, durable." "Maybe that's why we work well together," Kevin said. "Different methods, but the same core idea: resilience." Groth's deep laugh echoed through the ship. "Perhaps so." Their first real mission came 5 weeks into training. A mining colony on a high-gravity world had suffered a tunnel collapse. Dozens of workers were trapped. The gravity was too strong for most rescue teams to operate effectively. The Frontier Hope was dispatched. Kevin felt his heart race as they approached the planet. This was what they had trained for. Real people needed help, and they were going to provide it. The colony was in chaos when they arrived. Local emergency workers had been trying to reach the trapped miners, but lacked the strength to move the heavy debris. The tunnel entrance was blocked by massive boulders and twisted metal support beams. Van assessed the situation quickly. "Kevin, Amy, we need that entrance cleared. Groth, assist them. Prin and Zix, prepare to enter once there is space. Velk, set up the medical station here. Kala, check for toxic gas leaks. Dren, monitor for radiation from damaged equipment." The team moved into action. Kevin and Amy approached the debris with Groth. The boulders were enormous, each weighing several tons. But the planet's gravity was actually helpful. It was 1.2 standard G, uncomfortable for most species, but barely noticeable to humans. "That one first," Amy pointed to a key boulder. "If we shift it, the others will be easier to access." Kevin and Amy positioned themselves on either side. Groth placed his massive hands on top. Together, they pushed. The boulder shifted, then rolled aside with a grinding sound. Local workers stared in amazement. They worked through the debris systematically. What would have taken conventional equipment hours took the 3 of them 30 minutes. Soon there was a clear path into the tunnel. Prin scuttled forward, his multiple limbs allowing him to navigate the unstable terrain easily. Zix followed, compressing his gaseous body to slip through tight spaces. "I see them," Prin's voice came through the communicator. 17 miners, multiple injuries, some serious. "Bring out the most critical first," Ven ordered. "Velk, prepare to receive patients." The rescue took 3 hours. Kevin and Amy went into the tunnel multiple times, carrying injured miners out. The workers were heavy, built for the high gravity, but manageable for the humans. Each time they emerged with another rescued person, the watching colonists cheered. Velk treated the injured with a combination of techniques: gentle methods for minor injuries, more aggressive intervention for the seriously hurt. He set broken bones with confidence, applied pressure to wounds without hesitation, and made quick decisions about who needed immediate surgery. One miner had been impaled by a metal rod through his leg. The situation was critical. Removing the rod could cause fatal bleeding. Leaving it in meant the tissue would die. Amy assessed the situation. "We need to remove it and clamp the artery immediately. Velk, are you ready?" "Ready," Velk confirmed, his hands steady. Amy pulled the rod out in one smooth motion. Blood sprayed. Velk's crystalline hands moved faster than Kevin had ever seen him move, applying a vascular clamp with perfect precision. The bleeding stopped. Together, they stabilized the miner and prepped him for transfer to the colony hospital. He would live. By the time the last miner was brought out, Kevin and Amy were exhausted, but it was a good exhaustion, the kind that came from meaningful work. They had saved lives today. All 17 miners survived. The colony administrator approached them as they were packing up equipment. "I don't know how to thank you. Our own teams could not have done this. The gravity, the weight, the speed needed. We would have lost people." "That's why we're here," Amy said simply. Back on the Frontier Hope, the crew gathered for a debrief. Ven praised their coordination and effectiveness. 17 lives saved on our first mission. That is an excellent start. But remember, we were fortunate today. Some missions will not go so well. Some patients we cannot save. "We understand," Kevin said, "but we'll save as many as we can." "That is all anyone can do," Ven agreed. Over the following months, the Frontier Hope responded to dozens of emergencies across the sector. A reactor leak on a space station, an outbreak of parasitic infection on an agricultural world, a shuttle crash in an ice field. Each mission was different. Each required different skills. The crew became more than co-workers. They became friends, united by their shared purpose. They learned to anticipate each other's moves, to communicate with glances and gestures, to trust completely. Kevin found himself thinking about how far they had all come. Months ago, these aliens had been afraid of human medical techniques. Now they practiced them confidently, adapted them creatively, and taught them to others. The galaxy was changing, slowly but undeniably. Human methods were being integrated into emergency protocols across hundreds of worlds. The idea that fast, decisive action could save lives was spreading. Medical schools were updating their curricula. Response teams were training in adaptive techniques. And it had started with one accident in a training lab. One moment when 2 humans refused to follow the careful, gentle protocols and did what their instincts told them was right. One evening, Kevin stood in the observation deck of the Frontier Hope, looking out at the stars. Amy joined him. "Thinking deep thoughts?" she asked. "Just reflecting. When we came to Lumina 7, I thought we were going to learn from aliens, and we did. But we also taught them. We showed them a different way of thinking about medicine." "We made a difference," Amy agreed. "Not just for Velk, but for everyone who will be saved by the techniques we shared." Velk's voice came from behind them. "You made more than a difference. You changed the galaxy. Before you came, we believed our way was the only way. We thought gentleness was always correct. You showed us that sometimes strength and speed are forms of care." He floated between them, his crystalline body reflecting the starlight. "My people have a saying. The hardest diamond forms under the greatest pressure. You humans are diamonds forged by a world that tried to kill you, and now you use that hardness to protect others." "That's a nice way to put it," Kevin said. "It is simply the truth," Velk said. "I am honored to serve with you." The communication system chimed. Ven's voice came through. "All crew to stations. We have received a distress call from the Kepler colony. Multiple casualties from an industrial accident. ETA 2 hours. Kevin, Amy, and Velk headed to their stations. There was work to do, people who needed help, and they were ready. As the Frontier Hope jumped to faster-than-light speed, Kevin felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had found their place in the galaxy, not as curiosities from a death world, but as valued members of a team dedicated to saving lives. Earth had made them strong. The galaxy had given them purpose. Together, they would make a difference, one emergency at a time.